Hello and welcome back to SpriteGuard Plays Race the Sun. This is another heavily edited, post-commentated run, which is why it's a bit late. I find these very difficult to do, and I'm probably not going to be doing them much more just because I find them so difficult, and so I may end up just leaving stuff out if I'm not able to record a good enough episode. Because this is something that I thought was worth a try, and it doesn't fit with my schedule. And it doesn't fit with my talents, and so, I gave it a good try, but it's not something that I enjoy. It's not something that I'm particularly attracted by, and so I'm kind of okay saying, this was a fun experiment, and now we're going to move on and try something else. It was good to get outside of my comfort zone, but it's just not working. And I think that's part of getting out of your comfort zone that is often not talked about, is kind of trying to make that judgment of, when are you uncomfortable but making progress, and when are you uncomfortable and just not having a good time. And, in this case, that's the judgment that I have reached, is that I'm just not having a good time. So this is actually the same seed as last time that I'm working on here, and I worked on it until I managed to get the 100,000 points, so that's the next thing that we're going to see. And I also worked on getting the jump ability, just, getting as many jumps in as I can, because heading down this route real straight, I discovered that I would pass quite a few jumps. And so I decided to really just focus on building up my multiplier, building up my score, and getting jump tokens as I passed them. And I was pretty tired at this point. I was not able to commentate, which is why I ended up post-commentating this. But I really felt like, even if I just got the one pip, I would be alright with that. And that's kind of the danger of recording 2 episodes in a row like this. But I really felt like 100,000 points was very much in reach, and I did a little bit of grinding, and I don't even think this was the very next run. I think that this was the end of quite a lot of grinding, and I could feel myself getting pretty frustrated because 100,000 points felt very much within reach, and I just wasn't able to make it work. And so, managing that frustration becomes a very difficult part of this kind of game, is knowing when you're too frustrated to continue playing, because at that point you kind of start to spiral out of control. And that becomes very unpleasant, and it can make the game really unfun to play. And that was actually a big part of why I kind of got interested in using games as a laboratory for the emotions, and using games as, something to help myself control my emotions better, was because I found myself not enjoying games as I got more frustrated. And so I actually ended this day by trying to get the turn left achievement, and I just wasn't able to do it. I wasn't really on top of things enough. I wasn't really able to find a route, and I was getting tired enough that I didn't want to continue finding a route. And so I ended up not doing that for very much longer. But, I kept working at it. I kept trying to find that route, even as I was getting more and more frustrated. But here, I ran into this wall and immediately realized that there was no way for me to get around this without turning right. And that was the kind of thing that started happening as I got more frustrated. And that's the other thing with frustration, is that it starts to create, it starts to make you get worse at games. And so here I started on a different day. And you can see by my having a personal best that I had already run this course before, but I decided to work on some of the objectives that I had not yet gotten, And one of them was doing a lot of stuff in air, and so I was trying to fly around up high and use the jump ability and just, get as many different objectives as I could, and also, build up that multiplier. So I was just, I was working on whatever I happened to see really opportunistically in this one. And that ended up working out well enough. I used the jump ability, and I spent some time in the air, which I think ended up not paying off this time. But one of the things that I really tried to do was I tried to see if a jump token was coming up. Since I can only hold one, I would try to jump just before I hit it. And here I tried to go into that falling pillar alley, but it ended up, I realized kind of at the last second that I wasn't really lined up to do it correctly. Those alleys are very difficult, and you need to come at them really straight down the middle for them to work. So here I managed to get up to 14 out of 15 jumps, and so I knew that I only needed one more, and so I decided that I'd be able to get that. I had figured out this way of picking up that jump, which was not very consistent, but after a little bit of grinding, I managed to pick it up. And I managed to do that in part because of the magnet. Now, these tunnel things are fun, but I haven't figured out yet the correct inputs to get them really smoothly and keep my multiplier. And then I also had this objective to pick up energy in the air, and so I wanted to pick that one up, but I didn't quite notice it in time, and so I decided to leave that behind, because you have to do all three in one region, and so I knew I wouldn't have time to do that, but I wanted to get a sense of where those energies were so that I could come back and do that. And then, after this, I just tried to put in a good run, get a good score, because getting a high score is something that I find really compelling in itself. It's something that I find more enjoyable to strive for than a lot of other objectives, because it feels like I can endlessly work on it. So then this one, I started working on... I had the 3 regions with no collisions, 4 regions with no collisions in my mind, but the main thing I wanted to do was get some jumps and pick up those energy tokens in the air, and really try and remember where my options were for doing that. And then, of course, I went into this, didn't quite know how to do it without colliding, and so I pretty quickly gave up on that. But here, I remembered seeing an energy, and so I did that same launch that I did before. You can get very high off of those spheres. And so now I needed just one more, and I had actually forgotten that they had to be in... Actually, now I'm forgetting as I do this post-commentary. I believe they had to be in one run, but there was some confusion about whether it had to be in one run or in one region, but I decided to make sure that I had gotten it, grab that one. I think I believed I had already gotten 3 there, but I wanted to be absolutely sure. And so I picked that one up. But I think it may actually have been one region, but we'll see when this one ends. And that's part of why I'm not real happy with the way that post-commentary has gone, is that I'm no more likely to remember stuff in the post-commentary than I am live. And kind of what I've been finding is that I just don't have the time and energy to really put forward a very well-organized, very tightly controlled post-commentary, like what some of the professional YouTubers do. Now here I managed to pick up an emergency portal, which is not an item that you see very often. And that ended up actually helping me out quite a bit. And I don't even remember if it was this run or a different one where it ended up saving me, but... it's the kind of thing that you just have to keep in your pocket and try not to use it. You can't really use it strategically. And so I was okay with using it there. You know, you want to use it as late as possible, but I was okay with that outcome. And then I ended up crashing, as I usually do. I've had some runs that ran out, and there we go. We unlocked Apocalypse mode with that, picking up those boosts. And that was in a round, and so not in a region, didn't have to do it in a region, but I decided to end with the Apocalypse mode, trying it out. It's very difficult, I did not do very well, and it requires you to use items more aggressively. So I didn't get very far, but that might be something to do later. Until next time, thank you very much for watching, and have a great rest of your day.